That's a good point. I know I've done a review where
Welcome to this episode of the Account Ads. The last time we chatted, or the last episode you would have seen, was the Account Ads at the Accounting and Business Expo. Ash, we had some pretty good feedback on one particular topic.
everything's about AI, right? So we're going to be here talking about Claude. So we've been hearing the ChatGPT bandwagon for a little bit, but we've taken that to the next level, and we've got some really good engagement from that as well.
And so what we're trying to do, guys, is you see multiple tutorials online on how people are using these AI tools, which are great. But we want to show you how we use these tools as finance managers or in the CFO world, so to speak, and how you might be able to apply this to your world. Our call to action at the back of this session is to encourage you to start playing with these tools, because that's the best way to learn. So, Ash, we speak about this in our group, but people might not realize that they're already using AI. They might be using it as ChatGPT. They might be Googling things and seeing the AI summary come up at the top, or they might be using it inside their internal system. So even if we don't think that we are super users of AI, it's still in the world that we live in.
So I've written things from write me an email all the way to can you plan my holiday for me, or what's the recipe on how to make this?
Yeah, and it really takes away the pain of the labor and the grunt work in the finance and accounting world. So this is the 7 layers of AI that we're seeing as the account ad. The first 2 is the search engine layer. So essentially, we might use ChatGPT as a bit of a new Google. So we might ask it what the current FBT rates are, what are our tax thresholds, or we might just even give it a scenario. And that's kind of where I'd say most people still live in.
Yeah, 100%. Like we tend to just come back and say, hey, let's use AI for that. And I'll simply just prompt how I Google into a ChatGPT or Claude or Grok platform.
And why people use it that way is because it removes the layer of you actually finding credible sources. It does all that work for you, summarizes that information for you, and gives it to you in a digestible way for you to then read that and make a decision off the back of it. So that's layer 1 and 2, search engine, thought partner. The 3rd and 4th layer is where I think we all should be moving towards, and hopefully after the end of the session, you guys will move towards. But this is the assistant layer and the agent layer. So the assistant layer is essentially where you use AI as an assistant, and we can then move into an agent layer or an agentic layer where you can then start to trust this assistant to continuously do those tasks for you in a repeatable fashion. And the next 5, 6, and 7 is where I think there could be real power. And this is the space that AI world is evolving very quickly. And this is using AI as your co-work agent or an autonomous peer. So essentially, this is essentially having an employee right next to you. Instead of hiring a junior or another teammate, you now have an autonomous peer AI agent that can do things for you in a repeatable fashion and even start to prompt you. And ultimately, you want to have a system. So it's an AI system that runs your month-end close, as an example, end to end. And, we're trying to build a tool at the moment called Safra that's touching 5, 6, and 7 as well, where it's essentially being a thought partner to start off with, but ultimately will become your system on which you can rely on. But for today, Ash, we're living at world 3 and 4. That's where I feel like the immediate wins are for today. Now, Ash, trust. Big for accountants.
100%. 100%. So how do we make sure that anything that the AI machine spits out we can rely on and it's not making it up, and hallucinations? What do we do about that stuff?
Yeah. And there's a bit of fear mongering, isn't there, in the accountants world, particularly because a lot of accountants use it as a cop out to say, I'm not touching it because I don't trust it. There's data privacy and all this stuff, which are good things to think about. And I guess that's why we're accountants, right? We should be protecting our businesses against risk.
Well, I've even heard the other side where it's said, oh, if I use an AI platform, I'm cheating. I was like, how'd you get that school of thought, mate?
That's right. The same people 50 years ago said using a calculator is cheating.
Yeah, that's right. I got to memorize how do we do all the divisions and multiplications in my head.
That's right. But Ash, we look at this in kind of 3 ways, a bit of a trust framework from an AI perspective. First is this source hierarchy, where we tell AI explicitly we direct it to trust the data first and not hallucinate. So we're essentially prompting AI to say, trust the uploaded data, then our instructions, then its reasoning last. You're giving it layers. Ultimately, think about it. If you had a new person start in your business, you're training it in terms of reasoning logic. It's the same thing you're doing with AI as well. The second one is verify the output, not the process. This is
Yep.
important, isn't it, Ash?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think we need to be checking like basically like not the nitty-gritty of how the actual model works as such, but actually like does that output show what we're actually trying to reflect there?
Yeah.
So it's really good.
Yeah, and ultimately, if Ash had one of his team members build out a forecast or a model, the way Ash would test it was actually test the assumptions. Like you'd be doing your checks and balances. You might actually go into the model and delve into a few formulas, Ash, but more often than not, you're just trying to make sense of it and validate if it lines up with your understanding of the business, which is why people hire you to run finance teams. And the last one's the audit trail. This is important for us as finance people. We want to have a good audit trail around its reasoning, its responses, but also if it's building something for you, you want to be able to trace it back to see the assumptions it's making.
Damn, this sounds like a young version of Kevin Sampath doing all this stuff. It's amazing.
I don't think we were that talented, but you're right, Ash. If we had to go and hire a very capable graduate, um, this sounds like having someone like that at your fingertips. And again, we wouldn't just trust that grad's work straight
Yeah.
away, right? We'd review it, we'd validate it. Um, and yeah, it's this grad that we have at our fingertips that doesn't complain and doesn't need a coffee run.
All meal breaks, right? So
That's
we're
right.
good.
Well, Ash, one of the things that I think the audience at the expo really said that they would love to see is us demoing some of these tools,
Yeah.
and not just demo and say, hey, these are the capabilities. They want us to show them how would you actually do this and how can they start playing with it. So we were saying, Ash, it'll be actually really powerful to show them. So obviously this is a recorded session and, we'll be able to remove any teething issues, but you'll see as well, hopefully, some of the issues that can come out of this, but also some of the beauties of using tools like this. So what we're going to be playing in today, guys, is in Claude desktop. So first thing I'd recommend, you can use Claude on your browser, but I'd recommend downloading Claude in your desktop to sit as an app. And I find that's where you find uh, the most capability because it can look at your documents, it can create documents for you. It's a bit more powerful because it works in Excel as well, which is great for us as accountants. So Ash, we're going to run through 3 examples. The first example we're going to run through is a simple one. So most of us um, might have done this already, particularly in terms of uploading documents and asking AI to do things for you. But if I get my desktop up, so this is Claude Desktop essentially. If I start a new chat, we're going to step you through this. So if you just downloaded Claude Desktop, you've logged in, you're on a plan that you subscribe to. Our first example is invoice processing. So I want to keep this very simple. Ash, if you're a finance manager, you've got an AP person in your team that looks at invoices, reads them, and then types it into a system. And we shouldn't laugh because that happens in many businesses still. This is one of the easiest wins that a lot of businesses can have. So what we're trying to do is essentially showcase that Claude or any AI tool can actually read documents, synthesize that information, and then collate that in a table. So pretty simple. We're going to ask Claude a couple of things. We're going to ask Claude to look at a folder that I've got. We're going to ask Claude to look at the invoices that I have in this folder. So if I go, actually, I won't click my Google Drive for now. I'll just add the files in here, just out of interest of time, because it's going to ask me to authenticate and everything. But I've got some PDFs that I created earlier. I'm just going to upload all of this. It's going to upload those invoices, and essentially, I'm going to say,
That's actually pretty quick as well to upload, right? It wasn't
yeah,
super
yeah.
labour. That's good.
So what I'm going to say is I'm going to give it essentially a prompt to say, read every PDF invoice in this folder. So I'm going to say read every PDF invoice in this folder, extract vendor name, invoice number, date, line items, and total amount. Flag any line item over, say, $5,000. And I want an output. Let's go CSV for now, so I can upload into any other document with columns. Let's get vendor, invoice number, date, description, amount, and if flagged greater than 5K. Okay, so this is what it's going to do now as we click enter is it's going to go in, look at each of these invoices and pull out that information based on the instructions I've given it. Now, why this is powerful is in the old days in ChatGPT and even Claude, you'd have to direct it to use a particular way to extract the information from these PDFs. What this does now is it looks at the PDFs and says, okay, I've got these inbuilt technical capabilities. Let me find the best way to get all the information that I need. And it actually talks you through exactly what it's doing. So you can see here, it's actually gone through a couple of steps already, but it's now at the invoice extraction part where it's looking at exactly what it needs to do, pulling out the information based on the information, the fields that we've given it, and it's starting to do this quicker than that grad that we were saying at 3 a.m. Ash.
Right. Yeah, I know, right? Because at 3 a.m. he's going to build the coffee machines and fill the beans, right? So, but this is
That's
incredible. And I
yeah,
think this is what's exciting here is it's actually reading the whole PDF. Now, like, so some of the users, you may just come back and say, I was just doing a scan. But if you think about it, RPA was a technology that they were looking at not that long ago, and that was super structured. Like if your PO number wasn't on the top right-hand side and coded with the first, 10 digits, the whole thing would fail. And this has just gone ahead and picked everything up. And this is incredible. Absolutely
100%. So
incredible.
you can see here already. It's actually given me more information than I need. I asked for vendor. It's given me ABN as well, because it
Yeah.
obviously knows ABN is pretty critical. So it's done that. And you can see actually before we even get to the data, it's telling you what it's done. 8 invoices processed, 31 line items, 64,000 in total. This is the items that is flagged greater than 5,000. All ABNs were present, no mismatches, no duplicates detected, and it's added category classifications as well. So you can see how it's gone above and beyond. And some of this is
Yeah.
actually trained on your style. So if
Mm.
you're asking for information like this, it knows, okay, Kevin actually likes categories because it helps him think quicker. And so it starts to do that for you. So it's built that out. It's gone through, gotten me the information, and it's actually flagged anything that's over 5,000. I just like to do a quick validation. Sometimes it gets things wrong because I haven't given it, and most of the times because it's misunderstood my request. But more often than not, there you go. It's even added a notes column. So it's intuitively thought. There's obviously a call to action at the back of this because Kevin's asked for over $5,000. So I'll give him a notes column because he's going to add some notes and send it on to someone else. And you can download this as the CSV, which is the format I requested, but you can also say Excel and it'll create that for you. Now, to do this task, could have potentially taken an AP person about an hour just to look through the thing, create a spreadsheet. And because I've asked the AP person, I haven't said ABN, that he would have sent this to me without the ABN, and then I've gone back to him and say, hey, actually, can you get ABN as well? And that'll be another half an hour to an hour. But it's intuitively thought through this. It's thought through actually what's the output that I need? Why does he need this? It's the reason through some of those already, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing.
Cool. So that's our first use case. Our second use case, Ash. Actually, let me open up a document that I created earlier.
And so how long have you spent training to upload some PDFs like that? Like what was your thought process there, Kev? Like how long did it take you?
Training the model.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think a lot of it is out of the box. So if someone creates an account and does that now, it should do it straight away for you.
Yeah,
It might not
perfect.
have the exact same output, but basically it knows my information. There's this thing called markdown files, which essentially is Claude's understanding of who you are. Firstly,
Yeah.
as a person, in terms of your speaking style, communication style, the types of projects that you work with, and your kind of profession. And so it caters to your information in that way. So it knows that I'm in the accounting and finance profession. It knows that I essentially request information in a certain way. And it's probably learned from that. But ultimately, if someone just started on day one, it should do a pretty similar job.
Yeah, nice.
So our next kind of focus is, let's go to read only. Is Claude in Excel. So this is kind of my first wow moment a couple of weeks ago when I started using Claude in Excel. I was just pretty amazed at how intuitive it was, and the fact that something can live in your Excel spreadsheet. So Ash, you'd probably be across, but there's been every company that we know has tried to disrupt the Excel world.
Yeah.
I think even at the expo that we were at, some of the apps and services that we saw said, "Oh, we're trying to be the new Excel." And internally,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were all laughing, saying, "Mate, nothing's ever going to replace Excel."
Mm,
But Claude have gone one up, knowing that people live in Excel. They
yeah.
have taken their world to enable and empower Excel users, and even if I'd say democratize Excel for the people that aren't really power users.
We can show people how to actually add it in, so that's good.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
just take it from the
okay.
beginning.
So I was just a bit confused because I've always had this added in, but once you install Claude, you can actually install Claude as an add-in.
So
So
you
you
just
can see
click
it here.
add-ins, you've clicked
Yep,
add-ins, and now you've got the little button that pops up there.
that's
Incredible.
right.
That
So
easy.
once you add it in, it'll just ask you to authenticate and sign in.
Yep.
So it's obviously just relapse because I've been using this pretty religiously. So what it's done now, it's opened an authentication window with a code because it knows my credentials. Okay, sign in code. There we go. All right, we're in.
We're in. We're in. All right,
Finally.
done.
Okay. Jeez. I have a feeling I've actually logged into my other account. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't. It should still work. All right. So now I've got a spreadsheet, or well, a CSV. This is for our business owners, Ash,
Mm,
or accountants that run businesses with no proper accounting system.
yep.
You might have a zero, but it's all messy. You've got a number of transactions, and you're trying to actually work out, well, I want a layman's view of the business first up before I start to dive in and look at anything else. And as you're talking with the business owner or as you're talking with the team, you might get a bit of information to give you a bit of context. And so you say, okay, now I've got a bunch of transactions, I've got a bit of information. How can I layer that into a view or a bird's eye view of the business? And so
Yep.
what I'm going to do, Ash, is I'm going to ask this fella. This is what happens when you first set up, guys. It'll just ask you to. I'll just say professional services. Skip, skip. Obviously, a lot of warnings there because essentially what they're trying to say is validate the information. Don't just blindly trust it. All right. So this is the business that we have. This business is I think I said professional services business.
Yep. Correct.
It's got a list of bank accounts, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask it to make us a P&L and categorize it appropriately and essentially give us a view. So we're going to say in here, categorize each line in this transaction dump into a standard chart of accounts structure, then build me a monthly P&L structure summary so we might talk to the business and say, okay, we have revenue, we have COGS, we have operating expenses, and net profit. And what it's going to do now is it'll actually talk you through what it's doing. So here we go. You can start to see it reasoning. And one of the things I like doing, Ash, is when I prompt stuff, I actually like asking it first. Ask me any questions to validate before you proceed, because I don't want it to make assumptions sometimes when I know the information. And
Yep.
usually it'll come back with 3-4 questions to say, oh, is this what you want? Just confirming this. And it just is a way for me to talk to my tool,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
validate a few things before it starts to build. So you can see now it started to say I've got 503 transactions. Let's validate that. If it's gotten everything, yep. Let me now process this data. So it's telling us what it's doing. It's processing the data in Python to categorize every line and prepare the monthly P&L structure. So its first step is categorizing the transactions into chart of account. It's like I've requested. It's then going to add a category column and then going to build a monthly P&L summary sheet for me. And obviously, this is going to do it quicker than probably one of us will do it, which is great because we're going to spend now the extra time we have validating the information, understanding it, and using it to add value to the business, like we spoke about as CFO-preneurs, Ash, and the accounting and business expert.
100%. This is super exciting. This is very, very exciting. I don't think I've ever seen something like this where it's such a simple prompt with no template being input,
Yeah,
and you're just giving a series of transaction.
yeah.
This is
So there's
yeah.
obviously some caveats here. When you use a tool like this in Excel, it won't have previous context information. So in ChatGPT, if I ask it something today and then say something tomorrow, ChatGPT remembers our conversation from yesterday. But this will every time I open a workbook and start again, it won't have previous context information. So it has to understand the workbook, re-understand my questions from yesterday because I have to give it to it again. But the way to solve that is in our use case 3, where we talk about projects. And so we'll talk about that a bit more then. There we go.
Okay, ready to record?
It's categorized. Yep.
I was just still thinking.
So it says all 503 transactions are categorized. Now let me write this to the spreadsheet. So it's doing this in the back end. It's categorizing, and now it's starting to write it. So any moment now, it'll either create a sheet or it'll write here into separate columns.
What I wanted to figure out was that line 7 came out Australia, $126. Must have bought half the store.
It's
Oh,
a bunch
mate,
of Anko items.
classic. So what's really interesting is like we've got a front end that you can talk to in natural language. It uses things like Python, which is a readily accessible open source language. And because for a lot of finance people, we're not Python experts, we just understand spreadsheets. It's using the best tool for those interpretations. It's using the best tools for those categorizations, and then it's actually applying that. So it's not even just trying to struggle doing VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUPs and index matches and a series of all that. It's just come back and said, let's do it smarter.
That's right, 100%. So you can see here, so anytime it writes or creates, it just asks you for permission. You can say always allow, but I just
Mm-hmm.
say allow. So it's essentially saying, can I just do these edits? And I'm saying, okay, allow once. And so you see
Wow,
here now,
that's
it's
incredible. Incredible.
created based on the categories I've given it. It
And
starts to do stuff.
let's look at Kmart general expenses. Perfect. Perfect. I'd say it's not bad. Let's just do a couple of more spot checks. This Vistaprint, so row 11, $223. We're printing at this age, printing and marketing materials. Yep. Good. Officeworks, so I'm looking at row 22, $426 in Officeworks. Jeez. Pens and marks have gone up. That's office supplies. Yep, spot on.
Yeah. So
Let's look
now
at
it's asking
one.
me to
Yep.
create a monthly P&L sheet. After, yeah, so it's going to do the summary. So it's done the categorization. You can do another validation, Ash.
Yep.
Qantas Airways, someone's
Yep.
flown to Fiji, travel airfares, fully deductible.
$1,000. I mean, the fuel price would be the same as the the flight price these days.
All right, so I'm going to say allow
Yeah.
once, and it's now creating a worksheet. It's labeled it monthly P&L. It is hopefully going to start to create this and make it look
Oh,
okay.
do you want some headers? Do you want headers? Of course we want headers.
Yeah. So here
Hey.
you go.
All right. Oh, check that out.
So the beauty of this is as well, I know some people are stickler for formatting. I'm a bit 50-50 on it. Sometimes I like spending more time. All right, I'm just going to do always allow because I want to speed up through this for now. But this actually formats it in a way which we normally see in financial statements in terms of, things in italics when they need to be like currency.
Yep.
And I feel like sometimes we don't spend as much time on that because we're trying to care about the accuracy of the data, but it does all of the above, which is great.
And for 500 unknown rows, oh yeah, that's very impressive. Very,
Yeah,
very
and
impressive.
the beauty is as well, so if I click in here, it's actually done the formulas,
Oh,
which is
right.
great.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
just like, uh, you know, line dumping and pasting values. So if I change my assumptions in here or put new data, it should actually flow through appropriately
Ah,
because it's
gotcha.
built it through formulas. And
And
this
it's
is the
broken the
stuff that
OpEx.
separated the accountants and the Excel super users from everyone else, right?
Mm.
But now this is at our fingertips. You just need to know what to ask it and how this information will then add value to whatever you're trying to do.
Because how many times have we tried to make financial statements and I'm like, oh, we'll just roll over an existing template and it's not
Yeah.
relevant for the business. And then we got like 50,000 blank lines that we're trying to deal with. This has come back and said, well, based on that list, these are the relevant ones. These are the ones I'm going to put in. And this is how we're going to split that. That's incredible.
So it's still rolling through. What I like doing as well, sometimes I like giving a task like this and just going on to something else or working away at something else. So it's doing this in the background. I know that I don't have to put as much brain power because I'm really just validating stuff that it's talking about. And then when I'm ready, once it's done, then I can put 100% brain power to it and focus on it because the work's already done and provided. So you can see it's also separated things like other income. I didn't really ask it for it to do that, but it's, yeah. It'll normally format everything. So here we go. It's starting to format stuff now. Column widths and freeze. Doing things, yeah. and, and see, you can see what it's doing. It's taking a screenshot at the end because it's also, there's limitations of it because it can't now, it doesn't have eyes on top of your screen, right? So it's like, all right, let me just aesthetically take a screenshot and see, does it look nice? And it's doing that. And now it's done it. It's come back and it's given me a summary. It's essentially, I can even ask it stuff in here now and treat it like I would with ChatGPT and say, what am I spend? Where am I spending all my print on? And things like that. And if that information sits in my workbook, it'll give that information to me, which is great. And yeah, that's the power of this second use case, which I've actually found the biggest leap since the first time I went on ChatGPT. And this was my biggest wow moment, I'd say, which has been great and probably will be great for many accountants out there too. Well, Ash, maybe our next use case, we'll do it in our next episode and we'll come back for it when we have a bit more time. But if you guys have any more questions, shout out to us so we can do some of these live examples as well on one of our future episodes in the Accountant. So we hope you guys found this helpful.